Crow was at his home about 10 blocks from the murder scene when the shift commander called him at 10:30 p.m. At 313 Carl Drive, the man temporarily in charge of the detective division, Sergeant Gene Irvin, briefed Crow on what had been seen inside the house and sent him to the Kramer home to interview Hendricks. When Crow arrived there, Hendricks was sitting in the living room, surrounded by the Kramers, Nate Palmer, Jerry Buchanan, and rookie detective Michael Scott. Without introducing himself, Crow asked John Kramer whether there was someplace in the house he could talk privately with Hendricks. John Kramer volunteered the master bedroom. It was then 11:30. Crow conferred briefly with Detective Scott before the three men went upstairs to the large bedroom and sat around a circular glass-topped table. Crow asked a few questions and recorded Hendricks's lengthy, calm answers on a legal notepad. Detective Scott listened. Hendricks said he had left home at about midnight the night before, stopping at the Perkins restaurant on his way out of town to get a cup of coffee to go. He recounted his business calls the next morning, saying he had tried to call his wife from the Portage Hospital at about 11:30 and gotten no answer. He said he had driven on to Madison, where he had checked into the motel before calling on clients in Madison. Hendricks said he had returned to the Red Roof Inn at about 3 p.m., and tried to telephone his wife then because he had been sure she would be there when the kids got home from school. He told Crow about the subsequent calls to his secretary and to his in-laws. He said that when he found that his family wasn't at the Palmers, he had called Karen Kramer asking her to go down to his house, tell Susie their phone wasn't working, and have her call him. There were long delays between Hendricks's answers and Crow's next question, while Crow tried to write down both his question and Hendricks's response. "How did you know the phone wasn't working?" Crow wanted to know. "Because it was ringing in my ear," Hendricks explained. "I was sure Susie was there, but I figured the phone was just out of order and she didn't know I was trying to call her." A pause. "Did you ask Karen to see if your wife's car was there?" "It wouldn't have done any good. Susie always put the car in the garage every time she uses it. The first time I called Karen, I didn't even ask her to call me back." Hendricks stopped, a blank look taking hold of his face as he stared at nothing. After a moment, he continued. "I was concerned, but I just knew they would be home. I was in my motel room. I was trying to get some sleep, so time doesn't mean anything to me. I called Karen back at around 6:30. Actually, I never asked Karen to go down before. I just asked her if she had seen Susan around, and she volunteered to go down and check. On the second call, she volunteered to go down and check again. Karen was concerned. I tried to settle her down because I wasn't that concerned. She went down and checked with one of the neighbor girls to see if she had played with my kids. I might have called her 3 times. Karen told me she had to go out for an hour, but John would look out for them." Hendricks recounted how he had called the Bloomington police, then the Illinois State Police, to see if an accident had been reported. "I really wasn't satisfied with the answers the police gave me. They told me there wasn't any accident. So I started home. Susie's just so—" Hendricks paused, again the vacant look shading his face. "She just doesn't—" Another short pause. "She's always on time. If you can't reach her all day, you know something is wrong." Hendricks went on to explain how his wife had had a doctor's appointment that morning, how he had left Madison at 7:10 p.m. and driven directly back to Bloomington, save for one stop to call Karen Kramer to determine if she had seen Susan. It was now 12:22 a.m., and Sergeant Irvin stepped into the bedroom. The crime scene technician from the state crime lab had arrived and needed written permission to search Hendricks's house and car. A form was completely filled out already except for the time of day, the year of car, and the signatures of Hendricks and witnesses. Irvin slid the form in front of Crow and Hendricks. Hendricks asked its purpose. "Just a matter of routine," Irvin answered. "The state wants us to get written permission before we search a crime scene." Hendricks read the form and signed it. Irvin, Crow, and Scott also signed it as witnesses.